I want to talk to you about fear. Not the rational fear of real dangers, not the fear of fire or falling or starvation. I'm talking about the kind of fear that religion specializes in. The fear of the invisible, the unknowable, the eternal. Because here's what I've noticed in all my years debating religious people. Scratch the surface of any religious belief, and underneath you'll find fear. Fear of death, fear of judgment, fear of meaninglessness, fear of being alone in an indifferent cosmos. And religion, all religion, is fundamentally in the business of exploiting that fear. Now, before anyone objects, let me be clear. I'm not saying that all religious people are cowering in terror. Most believers have found ways to compartmentalize their fears, to make their peace with their doctrines. But the doctrines themselves, the core teachings, they're built on fear from top to bottom. Let me start with the most obvious one, fear of death. Human beings are, as far as we know, the only animals aware of our own mortality. We know we're going to die. We know everyone we love is going to die, and we know there's nothing we can do about it. This is understandably terrifying. The idea that one day you simply won't exist anymore, that your consciousness will end, that you'll experience nothing forever, this is something the human mind has tremendous difficulty accepting. And into this existential terror steps religion with the most seductive promise imaginable. You don't have to die. Not really. Your body dies, yes. But you, the essential you, goes on forever. Heaven, paradise, reincarnation, whatever version appeals to your particular culture. It's a beautiful lie. And I say that without any condescension. I understand why people want to believe it. The alternative is stark and uncomfortable. But here's the thing. Religion doesn't just offer comfort about death. It weaponizes the fear of death. It says, yes, you can live forever, but only if you obey us. Only if you believe the right things, worship the right God, follow the right rules. Suddenly, immortality has conditions. And those conditions always benefit the religious authority making the promise. And then there's hell. We've talked about hell before, but it's worth emphasizing again. Hell exists primarily as a fear-based control mechanism. Think about what hell does psychologically. It takes your natural fear of death and multiplies it infinitely. Death isn't just the end, it's potentially the beginning of eternal torture. And not just for you, but for everyone you love who doesn't believe correctly. This creates a state of permanent anxiety. You can never be certain you've believed hard enough, followed the rules carefully enough, repented sincerely enough, because the stakes are infinite and the criteria are unclear. And this anxiety makes you dependent on priests to tell you you're saved, dependent on rituals to maintain your salvation, dependent on the church to mediate between you and eternal damnation. It's the perfect con. Create an invisible threat that can never be verified or falsified. Offer yourself as the only protection against that threat. And then collect money and obedience from terrified believers who dare not risk calling your bluff. But fear of death and hell aren't the only fears religion exploits. There's also the fear of divine surveillance. God is watching you. God knows your thoughts. God judges your every action, your every desire, even the things you don't act on. This is psychological torture. To believe that your mind is never private, that your thoughts are being monitored and evaluated by a cosmic authority, this creates a level of self-consciousness and guilt that's genuinely unhealthy. I've met people who've been psychologically damaged by this belief. People who can't enjoy sex because they believe God is watching and judging. People who feel guilty for perfectly natural thoughts and desires. People who live in constant fear that they're displeasing their divine overseer. And the worst part, this surveillance never ends. Even in death, even in heaven, you're still being watched, still being judged. There's no privacy, no release, no moment where you're truly free from scrutiny. This isn't love. This isn't protection. This is the fantasy of a totalitarian state extended into the cosmic realm. Then there's the fear of meaninglessness. The fear that life has no purpose, that we're just accidents of evolution, that the universe doesn't care about us. And religion offers meaning, prepackaged, guaranteed, cosmic meaning. You're not an accident, you're part of God's plan. Your life has purpose to serve God and achieve salvation. The universe isn't indifferent, it was created specifically with you in mind. It's comforting, of course it is. The alternative that we create our own meaning, that purpose is something we generate rather than something handed to us, requires more courage. It requires taking responsibility for our own lives. But here's what religion doesn't tell you. The meaning it offers is parasitic. It reduces you to a servant a worshipper, a means to God's end. Your purpose is never about you, it's always about pleasing the deity. That's not meaning, that's servitude dressed up as purpose. And there's another fear religion exploits brilliantly, the fear of being alone. Humans are social animals. We need connection, community, belonging. And religion provides that. It gives you a ready-made community of fellow believers. It tells you you're part of something larger than yourself. But again, there's a price. The community is conditional. It depends on continued belief, continued obedience, continued performance of the right rituals, and affirmation of the right doctrines. Step out of line, express doubt, question the teachings, and suddenly that community can turn hostile. You're shunned, excluded, cast out. Not just from the social group, but from salvation itself. This creates another form of fear-based control. People stay in religions they've stopped believing in because they're terrified of losing their community, their family, their entire social network. I've spoken with countless people who are functionally atheist, but still attend church, still pretend to believe, because the social cost of honesty is too high. They're held hostage by fear of abandonment. Now, defenders of religion will say, I'm being too cynical. They'll say, religion also offers positive things: hope, comfort, moral guidance, community. And I grant that it does offer those things. But here's my point. It doesn't need fear to offer them. You can have hope without the threat of hell. You can have community without the threat of exclusion. You can have moral guidance without divine surveillance. The fact that religion insists on packaging these goods with fear tells you something important. The fear isn't incidental, it's central. It's load-bearing. Remove the fear, and the entire structure collapses. Why? Because without fear, religion becomes optional. If there's no hell, no divine judgment, no cosmic consequences for disbelief, then what's the urgency? Why not just be a good person without all the supernatural baggage? The fear is what makes religion necessary. It's what creates the problem that only religion can solve. And that's why religious authorities can never fully let go of it, no matter how much they try to modernize their message. Let me give you a concrete example. Look at how religion treats doubt. In any other area of human inquiry, doubt is considered healthy. In science, doubt drives investigation. In philosophy, doubt is the beginning of wisdom. Even in everyday life, we consider it prudent to question claims before accepting them. But in religion, doubt is dangerous. Doubt is sinful. Doubt is something to be resisted, suppressed, prayed away. Why? Because doubt threatens faith, and faith is the mechanism by which fear is managed. If you start doubting, you might stop being afraid. And if you stop being afraid, you might leave. So religion has to make doubt itself frightening. It has to convince you that questioning is dangerous, that skepticism is a path to damnation. This is how you know fear is central to the system. Any ideology that punishes doubt is an ideology that knows it can't withstand scrutiny. And here's something else. Religion thrives on creating new fears to replace old ones. As societies become more secular, as education improves, as science answers more questions, the traditional fears lose their power. People stop worrying as much about hell. They stop believing in divine surveillance. So religion adapts. We need to face reality as it actually is, without the crutch of comforting lies or the burden of manufactured terrors. Yes, we're going to die, that's a fact. But knowing our time is limited makes it more precious, not less. It gives us urgency to live well, to accomplish what we can, to connect with others while we have the chance. Yes, the universe is indifferent. But that means we're free to create our own meaning, our own purpose, our own values. We're not bound by some cosmic plan. We're genuinely free. Yes, we're alone in some ultimate sense, but we have each other. We can build communities based on shared humanity, shared values, shared goals, not on shared fear of divine punishment. This is harder than believing in easy answers. It requires more courage, more honesty, more work. But it's also more dignifying. It treats us as adults capable of facing truth, not children who need to be frightened into obedience. Religion thrives on fear because fear is its fundamental currency. Take away the fear, and what you're left with is just cultural tradition, communal ritual, moral philosophy, none of which require supernatural beliefs. And that's why I say, reject the fear. Face reality. Live courageously. Thank you.